Hello and welcome to Behind the Duvet for Hiding the Pride. We are with most of the cast of Z Audio. We have got Connor, who played Michael. We have Jimmy, who played Anthony. We have Aidan, who played Captain Freddie. Rory, who played Ben. James, who played James. Matt
Original.
Tyrrell, who plays Tommy O'Neill, and of course Chelsea Lagan playing her amazing character who pops up in everything TT wise, Molly O'Neill. Hello, hello
And we are
all. So
presented by our wonderful director.
hello, I wrote and directed this audio production. So we've just finished recording it. So how did you find recording? Really interesting.
It was shit. No, joking. Um, Again, I think this is that I did get a lot of similar vibes from when we did R101.
Mm,
But I do think that it is, I don't know. Again, I think because this is a completely different caliber, I think, acting wise, this is a purely historical, this is a pure historical.
yeah.
And I just really enjoyed playing someone who was very commanding and, but there was something of a softness
Mm.
as well. And also, to actually portray a spoiler alert, death scene. Because I don't think I've ever had really a death scene in TT, I think.
Well, you died in R101. You're in the
Yeah, but
arms of
like,
Dominic G. Martin.
oh well,
Yes,
well,
you
But you
both of the
can't say
I
sacrifices.
dying in the
I
arms of somebody.
I get died in the arms of beautiful, handsome men. I mean,
It's just the way.
what
Yeah.
could be good?
So, what did you not think? Because the script was obviously it wasn't just written by me; it was also written by Connor, Connor Chadwick, to use his full name. So I wrote the historical stuff, and Connor wrote the modern stuff. So, what were your initial thoughts when you were given the script once you'd read it? Because I know what you lot are like. Rory,
I
Oh, me. Hello. Yeah,
hello.
I think it was incredible, really, because I think the modern day perspective really adds a sort of it adds the modern day element kind of adds a sort of hindsight to it. It gives like looking back at how people were treated then compared to how people are treated now. It really ties it all together really well.
Mm.
I thought it the ending scene in particular when they're going to the moment of silence is really emotional. Yeah, I thought it was beautifully written. I think it was yeah, I thought it was really well written, really well done. Yeah.
Jimmy.
I really liked the flow between the two, as very much as Rory's just said. You have, it's quite good because you've got the sort of the past stuff. It is very sort of harrowing, and it's beautifully well written in terms of, the different sort of attitudes of it. But I like the fact as well that I think, especially the historical stuff, I think there are scenes in there where you kind of, it's taken as read that people were less tolerant back then, but you've got a couple of times, especially in there, where you've got characters from that era turning around and saying it's fine with me. And
Mm.
it does reflect on not everyone during that time was so bigoted and so close-minded. There were the people there who did understand, whether they were family, whether they were friends, or comrades in arms. They understood it, and it's kind of, it was, I think it reflects well, probably something which I think is perhaps understated in history, that at that point they realized that kind of stuff doesn't matter anymore. We're all in the same boat here.
Yeah.
We're all soldiers. We're all on the verge of, we could die any day, and there's no point in us arguing amongst ourselves about trivial things like that when we're literally fighting for the world.
Yeah.
And I think it's nice to have that focus on there, because I think, like, with a lot of historical things like this, you really could have just sort of played into the sort of bigotry side of things, which I think a lot of historical things do, and that's, it's nothing against that, because that's the way it was. But it's nice to have something like this to tell the other side of it. but then also it's nice to have the reactions of the modern day side of it as well, where, you know, for example, the character that I play, Ant, is obviously, he's a bit blasé about everything initially, because it's kind of like, well, yeah, we know it happened, you know, because I think a lot of people do have that attitude today, and it's kind of like, well, it did happen, there's nothing we can do about that. But I don't think a lot of people don't necessarily understand the significance of those historical moments, because everyone just thinks, yes, it was a bigoted time, and it's like, yes, it was, but that's why it's all the more important to focus on the good side of things. And and it's nice to have that sort of dynamic between the past day scenes and the present day scenes, just to sort of really it covers both sides of the attitudes, whilst sort of also saying how even within that community the attitudes have changed, if you see what I mean.
Connor, how was it writing all the modern stuff?
Well, when I came into the project, it had already been written by yourself, Abby, for the stuff set in the past. But I know it was a project that initially started off with yourself and James York.
Yeah, it was Jim.
Where James had already written some segments of it already.
Just expanded on it.
Yeah, that effectively that's how I see it. I just saw and read through what James had written, and just sort of added to it, and just tried to sort of create, because I think it was, at the time, it was just about trying to make sure that the modern day stuff got had its own storyline as well with everything else, whilst of course in itself its main focus is on the war element. It was really good to explore the differences. And obviously I know James very well. We've met up and had many coffees and many gossips. So like it's something that as well I also thought, and I'm a straight man writing this, so it was something for me that I was like, I want to make sure that it does justice, when I don't necessarily, you know what I mean, I don't necessarily belong in that group because I'm straight. So it was something very much that, obviously, James, you then came on in the capacity of basically having a look at the script after I'd done the script editing, and making sure that you were happy as well, because at the end of the day, it's all about, like, I mean, it's all well and good me coming in and writing it from a perspective that I may understand from having seen people who have gone through those experiences, but I'm ultimately not someone who has gone through those experiences.
Yeah, I think it's a great, again, when I read the modern scenes, I think it was really well done, because I think the natural, or the kind of the stereotypical approach to have a gay couple in modern series is to either make their lives miserable, or, you know, to have that kind of still some obstacles to face. And, you know, pretty much so, just like any other couple, regardless of sexuality and gender, you're going to get your ups and downs. You're going to get people staring, and I really felt that way. And I think with the bits that I written, I think Connor has beautifully really developed more of it, and has definitely focused on a lot of the human side. And again, even with the war side, there's a human element. This is not just, oh, let's do it's a queer story set in World War One. It's a human story that, you know, would happen to anyone, and it's beautifully done. I think this is really something that it's a story that needs telling as well.
Definitely. So, Aidan, you've been cast as a captain again. I keep doing that with you in the historicals, because he was the captain of the R101 as well. So, like, how does it feel doing another historical?
It's like the captain just was like, "Oh, step up for me, smoke break, an inferno."
Yes.
But I don't know. It was nice playing the ferry one, because I haven't done anything really like what Army World War, you know, in a while. Like, so it was nice to give this a go and kind of put on my, I guess, like, I like to call it my brigadier voice, because it's.
I love it whenever he has to do the shoot them what for.
Like, shoot them what for. But I like the character, because like I was reading through the story and like the modern day stuff. Like I'll go with the modern day stuff first before I go into the war stuff. I really liked how that story kind of developed between the two in the modern day. That like, it's something very calm. Is he's just wanted to look through these letters and it starts to unfortunately affect their relationship, and it's it starts to get into really deep things, and then I kind of you kind of get emotional even though you're not the one, one doing lines. You're just reading through it and just being like, wow, like I mean, I I have I have relations in my family who are in the homosexual community, and it's kind of like I think you can think a lot of things when going into this, and when you get to the stuff with the war, you're going into a place where that's never been spoken about, and I did get a sense of it when my character talks to James's character. I was like, there was a one line where I was like, wait a minute, this I don't know, like that. I will admit here, I was like, does he know something or does he not know?
I feel like Freddie's completely clueless. When there's a line when he's like, "Oh, well, it was just a marriage of convenience," and you're like, "Oh, yes, I understand." I think he's thinking like, "Oh, he knocked her up. She was pregnant, had to get married." Whereas obviously James is like, "No, that's you don't understand. You really don't get it."
I really had that. Yeah, I mean, I was really kind of looking at it like Freddie just seems like that normal like corporate who's very kind of, we're gonna hit him hard, we're gonna do this work and whatever, and it's just he's very out of touch with what is going on with the soldiers, because like you really see these human elements with like between obviously Tommy and James and what they're feeling. Then you have London, Sid, and trying to remember the next soldier.
Ben and Sherlock.
Ben and Sherlock, yeah, because Sherlock should be an easy one to
so family O'Neill.
Yeah, and Molly, obvious, at the beginning and at the end is kind of like you really get all these like bits where it's like, Christ, this is because you like I feel like people who listen to like war stories or even have stuff in their family, they can listen to this and they really just I looked at it and I was like, I feel like I'm watching just something with World War One, like one of those movies that would be on about it. It really connects into it, and it's like I'm looking forward to this coming out.
So O'Neills, hello O'Neills. They're family O'Neill. So the O'Neills, the O'Neills have been kind of part of TT since day dot with Molly, so it's quite nice to be expanding the Mollyverse, so to speak, because obviously we met Charlie, Molly's eldest, in Before Vastra, and now obviously we are meeting her other son, which is Tommy. Several years down the line, I hasten to add, he is 30 by this point, but he will be appearing. The O'Neills will be coming back in later projects in TT. We're not doing stuff in order with Tommy because I like to make Matt Tyrrell's life confusing. So, Matt, I remember when we cast you in January when we were away, if I remember correctly. Yes, basically because you two were like cuddling, and I was like,
just one, like you turn your eyes, like I have it.
It's like a light bulb moment.
There was a photo that was taken, and it was like I think on the very last night, and I'm holding Otis's Matt Tyrrell's face, and I'm like, oh, and it was just like, that's my son.
That is mummy and son vibes, 100%. And I was like, that's got to happen, 100%. How was it playing the lead, basically, Otis?
Oh
yeah, I was the lead.
Well, it was a different sort of way to act than to what I've done before, because it's mainly been Who stuff and some stuff with some audios and supers. That's what I've done so far. It was probably the most challenging sort of acting I've done, because I've not done some sort of relationship sort of characters before, and I've never really been like a full-on lead properly yet, in this capacity at least. And I've not done a historical before either, so it was challenging. It definitely pushed me. I can feel.
I'll say
this,
though,
I was
you
very
smashed
nervous
it.
going into it.
You wouldn't know at all. You really smashed it.
I was really, but like when I was reading it for the first time, I was like, I absolutely loved it, and I was like, sort of gave a bit more confidence in like thinking I can actually pull this off. Like the monologue made me be like, oh bollocks, oh God,
Now
how am I
you
going to
know
do
how I
this?
feel. Now you
Yeah.
know how I feel, son. There you
Literally,
go.
O'Neill's. I'm like, I will give you a monologue.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Oh,
like
goodness.
we broke through that. It went all nice and well.
Yeah,
I think what I appreciated about the script in general, at least with the war side I was in, is the camaraderie with all of the troops and and all their emotions going in. They're coming in. They're coming in determined. Some of them are also very afraid, and but they all form some sort of like brotherhood. They joke with each other. They worry with each other, and they have this togetherness. And there's a scene with London, James, and Tommy where they all say like your secret's safe, and I really appreciate that because in a war you form that, and that's regardless. Like you get unity and determining
yeah,
to fight. Because we see it, we're seeing it now in Ukraine.
yeah.
It's so much. It's something that I really appreciated. It felt very grounded in reality in for the setting, and that's what I think I really appreciated it the most because it felt real.
I do think one thing that kind of helped me with that is obviously I've kind of been in those sort of situations. So I kind of it was just kind of second nature trying to build that kind of like friendship, really quickly build that friendship between the lads, you
Yeah.
know. So Molly,
Hello.
how did it feel basically being older mammy Molly, this is the Molly we've not really seen this
Mm-hmm.
Molly before. So how was it, apart from emotional?
Oh, it was obviously it was brilliant to be Molly again. I love playing Molly. I love Molly as a whole, and now she's a gay ally. She supports the
She's a queer
LGBTQ
ally.
plus.
Yeah,
Her
she's a
best
gay
I
friend's
love
ally.
it.
Jenny.
I know exactly, but she supports, and I think it's like it's heartbreaking as well because Molly's been through a lot already, so much in like her young life to go to now. Like there, she's lost her husband, her other sons went to the Navy. Now her son is going to war. And it's like, having that moment of saying, obviously, Molly saying goodbye to her son before he gets on that train is like, you know, is heartbreaking.
Yeah.
But also, she was just like, no, we have to have the conversation before you go. Don't be looking at any man, but if you are, just be on the sly about it. Like I spot one thing I appreciated about Molly is how open she is, especially for that time. And like near towards the end of the story, whenever she's talking to a character, she says God loves everyone. Like she still has like the old values that she still has. About because she obviously grew up in Ireland, God fearing peoples, Catholic. She obviously feels that it's like that whole thing of God creating you in His own image. It's like God wouldn't create you like God loves all. God
Yeah.
created you the way you're supposed to be. Don't be lying on who you aren't. Don't be who you don't want to be. You be who you want to be. God loves all His children and bloody belly belly jargon, whatever from the Bible. But no, I loved it. I loved the story. But one thing I really loved about this script, it's how it's a story within a story, and how you're following the story with characters that are in the story who are trying to follow the story. It was very different from what we usually do. And I loved it. I loved it just the way they, reading back the letters and us like being like, right, what's going to happen next?
Yeah.
So you're always waiting for that next bit, but also following the character relationship development of Michael and Anthony. So it's always good. And I play the real estate agent, which is quite fun.
How did you find, because obviously as per tradition with these behind the duvets, we now have to spend 10 minutes talking about little Matt Lyons.
Oh.
So how did you find? Like spoilers have already happened anyway, but how did you find doing that last scene with him, Chels?
I cried as per usual. Nobody in the audience or nobody here is surprised or shocked that I cried. Obviously, again, spoilers. Molly loses her son in the war. She loses Tommy. She's basically lost everybody at this point. Hoo-ha.
Yeah.
So I think just channeling that moment, like, that feeling of loss, and there's just so much loss in her life.
Yeah.
And just channeling that, and then obviously Matt Lyons brings me his diary, and it's like, oh, like I just automatically get welled up with emotion when it comes to Molly. I don't know why. It's just I've known the whole history. I've lived through the history.
Literally, this is the girl who I showed like a flow diagram of her family tree, and she cried.
Oh, I cried at it. I also had, I think, COVID during that time, so I was like,
this doesn't really help. But
no, he's amazing. He's such an amazing wee actor. He's going to go places, and you know what? We'll be sitting there waving the flags and everything, like, go wee Matt Lyons.
He has done a lot, and he just gets better and better every audio. But I will say this, because originally it was supposed to be somebody different. We had to do a bit of a shuffle around with cast. But London was always supposed to be 14, because you had to be 16 to join up, but he lied about his age, which is what a lot of boys did. A lot of boys did, and a lot of the army were like, well, they want to fight. I'll just pretend that they are 16, because a man's a man if he can hold a rifle. That's the way they saw it. And I say the original person who was supposed to play Matt Lyons was not 14. And Matt Lyons' character, London, was not 14. And about 3 months ago, Matt turned 14, and I was like, shall I be really cruel?
I think that is a cruel thing, because it has gone on in real life that these young boys thought that this was like the
just
brave
makes it 10
thing
times
to do.
more gut-wrenching when you think that he is actually the age that some boys did try to go.
And it's mad, because like I'm sitting here listening to everybody doing, when we say that scene, you'll know when it's that scene, and it's like, can you imagine a wee boy like that going through all that, and especially what happens? It's like, it's horrifying. It's absolutely horrifying, and
it definitely pulls at the heartstrings more, knowing that he's the actual age.
It does. It really does. And but he pulled it off really well. He's an amazing wee lad. He is going to go places, and we helped him. We helped him still.
Mention TT when you're in the
remember us when you're near the lights.
So, does anybody want to add anything before we stop?
I thought it combined a lot of what it needed to be. Like the two time periods bounce off so well of each other, and you have the grounded feel in reality with the war and with the couple in modern time, and it's a story, like I've been said before, it's a story that I think is needed, because and it's important to show that it wasn't all awful then. There was good people still. Just because there's this line in one of the last scenes where they didn't keep it in official records, and that's important to recognize regardless, because there were these are probably real people that actually did have this thing sort of going on, and throughout wars in history, and
they had to hide it.
Yeah, it's a very important story, and it's going to be very impactful for everyone.
Yeah.
It's a very definition of this story really sums up that thing of this is the freedom that they were fighting for.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't shy away. It just is like, this is what it is.
This is what happened. It's not nice, but that's what happened.
It's
very everything a war story should do. It was reflective. It didn't like undermine the horrors they went through, and it was very human story. And I think the final line as well was a beautiful note to end it on, about not hiding their pride anymore and about them being free. it was really, that was kind of brought me to tears. Really, really brilliant script. Just
Yes,
well
Connor.
I think it's nice and multi-layered as well because it has an element of, well, education, but also I like to think as well that it helps that community feel seen as well, because there's something that I think that we very much wanted to do with this was to almost like there's this scene when Michael and Anthony, for example, in modern day are having dinner, and they talk about a weird guy at work who was commenting on them about them being able to get a mortgage together, which both shows the progression made, but also the old-fashioned views that are still around to really kind of show that, like, obviously, there are more people that are accepting than ever now, but there are still. Yeah, there's still work to be done. We're not in a utopia yet.
No.
I think for me, I feel as a homosexual myself in real life and on screen.
Really?
Oh my God, James!
I know this is my coming out video.
Finally happening. You're coming out the closet.
I'm coming out of the trenches. So again, it's great because it's something that I can relate to, and I think a lot of queer people can relate to so much. The idea that yes, we're living in modern times, and yes, it may not be illegal, or we have rights and stuff like that, but there is still that hate outside in the world, and I think to show just how yes, a lot of things have changed, but there's still something.
There's still something there.
There's still something. I think that it shows that we still got a long way to go.
So that was Behind the Duvet for Hiding the Pride. I hope you enjoyed the audio. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe somewhere around here. Put things in the comments.
Yeah.
Comment.
Thank you.